All right. Welcome to That's a Word with Marcia and Gino. I am Gino Morrow.
And I'm Marcia Williams Cromer.
And we begin each conversation with intention, one word at a time. Let's get into it. Marcia, speak your word, sister.
Hello, Gino. Good to see you.
You too.
My word is vainglorious. Excuse me. Vainglorious is an adjective, and it means excessively proud of oneself or one's achievements, boastful in a way that is shallow, self centered, or lacking substance, and showing off success or ability more than admiration. No, for showing off success or ability more for admiration than for meaning or impact. And I'm just saying, I don't know if you followed the theme of my words over these last few weeks. I
Yeah.
just and hey, I just happen to like the word. It wasn't that I chose it because of some mystery or interest or whatever. I just thought it was a really interesting, cool word, right?
Yeah.
The etymology, the part that says vain is based in Latin for vanus, meaning empty, without substance, or worthless, and glorious, meaning fame, honor, or praise. And from a Christian theology standpoint, it is closely tied to the concept of pride, which, as we both know, is one of the seven deadly sins, right?
Uh-huh. Uh,
Also, in medieval writers' time, they used the term to describe people who sought recognition without righteousness.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's my word. That is my word. Vainglorious. Vainglorious.
And we can see it applying to a lot of people in this time, this day and time. What who comes to mind, or what group comes to mind, or what incident comes to mind, what situation sort of did you tie vainglorious to, or what situations does it apply to for you?
Well, I mean, let's just be real. The orange man, from the
Yeah.
standpoint of our politics, we have a leader who is completely vainglorious. He
Uh-huh.
is someone who, I mean, all the things that you were taught as a child, which, don't be self-aggrandizing, be humble, have some humility about yourself. If you don't at least understand that that is foul, then you live in a bubble where everything really centers around you. And even with the word, I will say it gave me a chance to check myself. I'm
Yeah.
like, are there opportunities in my life where I show up, in a vainglorious way
Mhm.
without wanting to be that person?
Mhm.
And sometimes I think because I've been a leader in pretty much every area of life, it
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean that you have to be. Sometimes I'll take on that role and it's not really a role that is required for me to have. So and I've done this like consistently over the last several years. When there are times that I can take that back seat, I'm gonna take that back seat,
Yeah.
and try to support the person who is in leadership without um usurping their authority with the people around. I don't need to have, the attention on my knowledge or my input or whatever. Ultimately, as a leader, you should want to make sure everybody is doing better because of your leadership, not just you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a slight pushback because I think I know you well enough to know that even though a position of leadership could be ego stroking, you have always been the type of leader to me who steps in because it's necessary, not because you recognize the credit you'll get from being
Right,
in a position.
right. I
Yeah.
try. I do try.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily I see that because we're human, I see the possibility of you experiencing vainglorious moments, but like I don't see that driving your action or being your motivation.
But
Uh
but that's my point. It's
yeah,
intentional.
yeah,
Okay? I mean,
yeah.
it's intentional. The people who I happen to grow up around reminded me, Negro, you just marsh. Come on now. Okay? Let's just keep it 100. All right. I
Yeah.
mean, and for people to be around you that don't shine that mirror or
Mhm.
reflect that mirror in your face, then you end up like the orange man.
Mm. So what
You funny. You funny. Did I take you to church?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. It makes me wonder if narcissism is like a synonym, because it's very similar.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Definitely. Absolutely. And there I think all of us have these tendencies at some
right,
point in our lives, right?
right. Yeah,
That
yeah,
it's human nature.
right.
All of these things are human nature. Every kid, screams and cries because they want their way. They come here built like that. And it's a
Mhm.
survival mechanism. But once you realize your needs have been met, what you crying for?
Yeah,
Why you mad?
yeah.
I don't understand that one. I'm a little bit confused, and I know some amazing amazing people who are leaders who are out there doing fantastic things in their community. One of which we're honoring this weekend, Emma
Mhm.
Rogers,
Come
former owner
on.
of Black Images Book Bazaar, for her trailblazing work within this community. Who happens to be one of my role models, and I'm fortunate to call her family as well. But to see the humility in which Emma moves through this community, and
Yeah,
she's just a small little person, but oh
yeah.
my God, she
It's
is
so accessible.
huge.
Yeah, like she doesn't give the air of like how well respected she is in the community. She doesn't
Yes.
give off an air of vainglorious at all.
No,
Yeah,
no, not at all. And fortunately, I'm sure you can relate. We've all been around those people who you give them they're seeking attention anyway.
yeah.
That's what starts that whole vainglorious behavior. You did something and somebody said, "Oh, look at you."
Uh,
Okay?
uh-huh.
And you like the way
That
it
addiction.
felt. Okay?
Woo-hoo.
Yes, and it's
Yeah.
like don't get high on your own supply, right?
Uh-huh,
So you
uh-huh.
hear it and then you like it and you're continually seeking that uh attention, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It reminds me of a conversation I had with my dad
Yeah.
years ago, man. And I'm probably like in my early 20s or something.
Mhm.
And I'm hearing people, say things about, oh, you look pretty, you're attractive, whatever, whatever. And my father had never said those words to me. He might say, oh, that's a nice outfit, or you look nice, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, my daddy didn't want me to be vainglorious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually asked him, I was bold enough to ask him, Gino. I
Good.
said, Dad, you never said, do you think I'm pretty, whatever, whatever. And you know what he said? He said, I think everybody looks all right.
Sit your ass
That
down.
was his answer to a 20-year-old child. Well, a young adult, okay?
Uh-huh.
And we were out, in his truck on the ranch. And maybe about 3 minutes later, he said, you know, something I've noticed is that women who hear that all the time wonder what it means when they don't.
Mm. That drug, that addiction, that need for validation
And
instead of
here
self-validating. Yeah,
and here's the top of that message was, you don't get credit for something you had nothing to do with.
that's correct. We can't control what our parents gave to us,
Okay. Okay.
genetic.
And I think to hear that in such a loving way,
Yeah.
really put things in perspective. And honestly, what it did was it made me want to be better at those things that I could do
Come
something
on.
with in terms of, my career, school, work, whatever. And showing up for my community as well.
Come on. So that leads me to ask the question, which you sort of answered, but I'd like to hear you highlight it in your own way. What are the results of being vainglorious?
I think the results of being vainglorious is not really being rooted in truth,
Mhm.
not being factual about who you are and the world and seeing the world around you in a way that is true. Um, I was watching a show the other day where Tim Wise was talking about how if you go to the African American Museum in DC now, there's a place where they have um, Thomas Jefferson there, and the words that he wrote in the Declaration of Independence about all men being free. And that part is kind of dimmed. And in the back, there are all these bricks of the names of slaves that he owned.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So someone who would write these words is not even living in that truth. So that somehow you've had to
Have a split from the truth or
split your
reality.
brain in such a way that you don't need that you can do one thing and justify doing something else.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first heard the word vainglorious, you
Hmm.
might remember this. It was from a group called the X Clan back in the day, and they used
Hmm.
to be highly on some like wearing ankhs and African beads, and one of the speakers, he was like the flavor of the group. I hope that's not an insult, but I don't think it is. But he used to go, "Vainglorious. This is protected by the red, the black, and the green with the key to the crossroads, sissies." You remember that? You remember that?
Yep, I remember now. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and that's the only time I ever heard the word vainglorious. So I never heard of it outside of that context before. And even then, I would took it as a negative, and now it's got me looking back at like, oh, that probably wasn't such a good word to use.
Right, exactly. Which is why we do what we do, right?
Right.
It's like to actually take a word and break it apart and really understand that, there are times where people are misusing the words. And if you don't take the time to understand them for yourself and bring them into your sphere in such a way that you can really use them correctly,
Yeah.
then you could actually be projected some vainglory yourself.
You might be, and
Okay.
that's how you cast spells, right?
Okay.
You take something and you twist the truth within it to lead to a different perception of it. That's
Mm.
casting spells.
And the other piece to that is how we assign roles to people based on how they show up in our lives. So
Fact.
if someone, like, let's say, and I have to use W, George
Uh-huh.
W.
Uh-huh.
Somebody told him he was a leader one day. Somebody told George Bush. And you know what? He believed it. And
Yeah.
so he started to act that way and take on the clothing of a leader.
Uh-huh.
And just because maybe somebody else didn't want to do the job, so they told him you can do it. Maybe because so many people in his family took on leadership roles, maybe you could do it. I don't think that guy wanted to be a leader.
I don't think
I don't
so.
think that's how he was built. But that's what we ended up with for 8 years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's a sign to them at a very young age because that's how the wealthy and the rich
Absolutely. The
do.
label that the world put on him was leader.
Uh-huh.
And to the contrary, the world can also put a negative label on you, like scary or dangerous or whatever, that would be, something that if you receive it and you're continually getting fed that word or some negativity, you could take that on as your clothing as well.
Like and ugly and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, and stupid, and like all of the words that we've felt over our time in our interactions with our European counterparts.
Right, right.
All of those projections,
And
monkey.
and systemically put into our brains so that we feel less about ourselves.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I've seen that happen even like in families where someone who didn't have a big voice, people assumed they didn't have anything to say. Maybe they were listening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Anyway, that is my word, Gino.
Love it.
And
Love
to
it.
you, I say, speak your word, my brother.
Yes. Okay. 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 My word is kind of like it sounds old fashioned. It's almost quaint, but it's like something your grandmother would say. And
Okay.
I was introduced to this word by a brother when I used to do acquisition rehab, and the very first house that I ever bought to rehab, one of the brothers in the community who was a general contractor or carpenter, I had contracted him to do some work, and he used this word. And it was one of them things that made me go, man, you never know what our people are going to pull out their pockets, because it just surprised me that, it was such a common word in his vocabulary, and he used it, and he understood it and he used it so frequently. But the word is persnickety.
Persnickety. Okay. Okay. I've heard that word.
Persnickety, and it's spelled Persnickety, and it's an adjective. And so a part of where I'd like to go with this discussion is there are two different meanings that was outlined for the word persnickety, but they both hold one holds a negative connotation and one holds a positive connotation. And I guess that depends on your disposition, because
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in a conversation around your take, my take, which perception or which definition resonates with us and why. And so, definition number one: placing too much emphasis on trivial or minor details. Fussy.
Mm-hmm.
Definition number two:
Mm-hmm.
requiring a particularly precise or careful approach. Persnickety. Which one resonates with
Mm-hmm.
you more, Marcia? I can read them again if you need me to.
Um, yeah, no, I actually feel like both of them do. I mean, I can see how people project if you are a detail oriented person that
Yeah.
you have, that you are persnickety, right?
Yeah.
um I think depending on who the message is coming from would
Uh,
determine how I perceive it,
yeah.
because there's some folks in my life who think, what, I mean, honestly, you know how she is. She's got to have it this way or that way or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, and if that makes me persnickety, okay, I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's okay for me. Now,
Uh-huh.
I tend to get that word coming my way more so in a negative way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I will tell you, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care that I pay attention to detail. I don't care enough to change and not be persnickety. I am like such a lover of all things that are just trivia,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes you could say that that's a persnickety kind of, approach to life. Having
Uh-huh.
said that, everything connects.
That's right.
So
Yes,
when
ma'am.
I learn one thing that may seem like useless information, I love it when I can tie it back to another thing that makes everything come into focus.
Uh-huh. So
Does that make sense?
it makes perfect sense. And I'm going to reiterate in my own example of why I think it makes perfect sense. because
Okay.
because being persnickety, it helps delineate you from being vainglorious versus being substantive.
Stop, stop, stop. I love that. You go, Gino.
Yeah, yeah. It all
Yeah,
to
yeah.
your point, it all ties together.
I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are times when I think I'm like, I have so much useless information in my head. And then I'll read a book, and
Uh-huh.
something that I saw in a documentary will, somehow connect to that message or the scene or whatever. So yeah, it just gives you a more broad viewpoint of the world that we live in.
I got a book recommendation. So I decided when I was researching my word, it drew me to a book that I read, and I was like, I'm gonna share that book because I think that book would be a stellar example of why being persnickety is so important. So before I tell you the title and the author's name, one of the points about persnickety that like I lean toward, I gravitated to both. Like I wouldn't like dismiss one definition because I favor the other definition. I need both definitions because they both work
I
harmoniously to me.
agree. I agree.
Uh, the one that I resonated with in that moment was the second definition of requiring a particularly precise or careful approach. Because for me, I feel like I'm always looking at number one, how can we better align with what God expects from us? Number one. And number two, how did we lose alignment? And I think
Mm.
it's because of the loss of paying attention to details. We aren't persnickety
Mm.
when it comes to things. But if you notice the people who excel in and wind up in the upper echelon of what it is that they do best or what they love, it's because they're very particular, they're very precise, they practice it ritually
Mhm. Mhm.
and until they've mastered it. And so the book that I wanted to recommend based on how that word resonated with me and having read this book in the past is called The Tipping Point: How Little Things Can Make a Big
Mm.
Difference by Malcolm Gladwell. And
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
and so and it was the fact that the subtitle was how little things can make a big difference. Because being persnickety is in some people's perception, well, you sweat the small stuff. But to accelerate in something, they say God is in the details. You gotta sweat
Yeah,
the small
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
We we
yeah,
say
yeah,
we say one word at a time.
yeah,
We
yeah,
say we're having a conversation with intention, one word
yes.
at a time. We are being persnickety about language. And so it's what we do.
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And you know what? As you're saying this, I'm thinking, really, it is the difference between focus and distraction,
Love it. Yep. Yep. I
right?
can see that. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, because when you're really focused on something, the details are important.
That's right. That's right.
When you are distracted, then you will cut corners. You know what? It doesn't matter that you check every box. And those distractions, and this is something we talk about all the time, people distractions, work distractions, all those things that can come into our sphere and derail our true goal. And so the persnicketyness of us,
Uh-huh.
it's what brings us back. It's like, wait a minute, because you can't half do it. So it's like if I'm skipping a step, it's going to come back on me. It is
That's right.
going to come back. I've seen it happen. Let me just check all the boxes so that I know that I'm gold. I'm gold.
That's
I'm
right.
good to
That's
go.
right. And when you cut corners, the results are you get the results that you work toward. And to another point,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
another point based on what you just said, another point it brings me to is it reminds me that you have to be present. Like you can't be focused on the past or the future. The only moment we ever get is the present moment. And so if being persnickety
That's
is about
good. That's a
diving into the
word.
details,
That's
yeah,
good.
Yeah,
Yep.
we have to be very present and intentional. There go intentional again. We have to be present,
Hmm.
purposeful, and intentional. And that allows us to maximize the moment. But when you cut corners, when you're not being persnickety, when you're not paying attention to the details and you start cutting corners, you stop paying attention to what the moment calls for from you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. So quickly, I got where are we? What we got? 4 more minutes, 3 more minminutes, 2 more minutes.
Wrapping up.
Yeah,
Wrapping up. We're
I
wrapping
got a
up.
few synonyms and a few acronyms that I wanted to
Okay.
share because I thought they'd be fun. And some synonyms for persnickety is finicky, fussy, fastidious. I like fastidious. I actually have
Hmm. Hmm.
one of the companies that I'm trying to roll up is called the Fastidiously Frugal Gentleman. So I like
Love that.
fastidious, uh, picky, overly particular. Uh, this is an interesting word. Pernickety, the British equivalent.
Parnickety. And I've heard of
Yeah,
that word as well. Yeah.
yeah, it's the British equivalent, meaning fussy about small details. Nitpicking, should have
Well,
known.
I'm proud to say that I am persnickety.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nitpicky, punk, punctilious. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Excuse me. Punk, punctilious, punctilious,
Punctilious. Okay,
punctilious.
punctilious.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's a synonym?
That's a synonym.
Okay.
Um, Contextual synonyms are painstaking or being careful and difficult to please. And then some antonyms are easygoing, laid back, careless, sloppy, lax, uncritical, and indifferent. Those are antonyms. So the opposite of persnickety.
Okay.
Interesting
Okay.
how easygoing and laid back would be a part of that because they don't come off as negative, in contrast. So
Right.
but my last note was, precision or being persnickety really, in my mind, is not really about control, but it's really about protection because paying attention to the details guards you from being infiltrated. And so I am persnickety and you are persnickety, and we probably could benefit as a group if we learn to be more persnickety in the things that we're most passionate about or that we have to engage in.
Well, and then too, that is, I think, a behavior that also protects time. Just like you said, you have to do it in the present, things that you're trying to accomplish, not in the past, not in the future, but you've got now. I do feel that we have to be aware that with limited time, your focus is your way to preserve that time to the best of your ability or to utilize that time to the
Yeah.
best of your ability.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. So that is my word.
Awesome.
Persnickety
Awesome.
and vainglorious.
Yes, yes. And I just want to take this time to thank everyone for joining the show today. As you can see, Gino and I have way too much fun with these words, and we're so glad that you're here to join us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Peace.
Peace.